Today we're interviewing Michael Evis. It's the 27th of November 2013. We're in Pilsen Youth Club and various members of the Pilsen Youth Club will be asking the questions. And this is interview recording number 1. Okay, so I've got some questions I've got here first. How did you see the festival changing over the next few years? How do you see?
Over the next few years?
Yeah.
It probably won't be changing a lot, although we do try and change it every year a little bit. We put some new stuff in, every year. And it does change from the point of view of the design and from the artistic side of things. But really you'd hardly notice actually, because it's the same place, the same site. The fields are the same, the fence is the same. There's the same numbers of people. We don't want any more people, for instance. So it's enough people. But there are some design features that are changing. And we're altering things all the time,
Do you wish it was smaller?
No, I don't know. Oh no, the way it is perfect like it is now. I wouldn't want really want it any smaller now. No. I mean, it was small once. It started 500 people to start with in 1970. And now that's pretty small. It's like a garden fete, isn't it? But it's grown and grown in the last 43 years.
A lot of people say they wish it was how it was back then.
That's total rubbish. That's total rubbish. It wasn't anything like good as it is now. We didn't have the money to put the show on. It was just nothing going on. They were standing around camping in the field, drinking and doing stuff because they were bored. But now there's so much going on now that nobody's bored. Okay. Yeah. And so they don't need to take drugs and stuff because it's such good fun as it is now. It's much more exciting now than it was then. It's 1,000 times better.
Do you think there were any changes you made that you wish you didn't?
Like what?
I don't know. There was the moving of the Arcadia stages. Yeah. Although some people didn't like that because it was very close. Do you think that's something that?
No, I had to move it because it too crowded where it was before, wasn't it? And it was dangerous actually because the people trying to get down into the southeast corner, which you call the naughty corner. The naughty corner was too busy. I had to take it out. Why? So what makes you think it was? That was a bad move. Then what makes you think that?
That was just an example of something that's changed recently.
No, it's not a good example because it was a huge improvement. Sorry, that moving it out was a huge improvement. And it was my idea. I had to fight the council and everyone to get it moved because it was on the old map, you see. So I had to change the map, and if we change the map, we had to go back to the council. It's hard work to move anything. You get a license, because everything's put in on the license application, and it has to stay where it is.
That's been complicated.
It's a huge effort to move things, it is, yeah. But no, that was a really good decision, although I would say that, wouldn't I? Because I did it, but it's so much better because there's so much more room and people didn't have to go down into the naughty corner because they were already at the other stage, you see. Yeah. So 80,000 people watching the last band on the other stage, and so they just turn and walk.
Better flow.
They walk a few yards and they've got Arcadia. So it's a better movement of people. Yeah. It's much safer, it's much less dangerous, it's much better. It was interesting that you actually raised that. I wonder why you raised it.
It was literally just because it's the first thing that changed recently that popped into my head and I wasn't really prepared that way.
Okay, no, there's a good reason to change. There's always a good reason to change things.
Okay.
I mean, we take it through, and we go every day we're working on the detail, like for next year, working every day. I was working 8 o'clock this morning, we started working. Yeah. And so meeting with all my team leaders and everything, 8 o'clock this morning. And what were you doing 8 o'clock this morning?
Asleep.
No, well, there you are, you see. But no, we work hard every day, and we're making changes every day. and we're improving the site every day. You know, it was a huge job.
Yeah.
We're not taking any chances or anything.
Yeah,
It's a serious job, and I've got sort of team leaders that are really sort of good at their game, you know.
Yeah.
But I boss them around a bit.
Yes, you're in charge of everything.
Order them around.
Yeah, cool, man.
Okay then. Now moving on to the questions everyone here has asked. What made you first think about running / starting Glastonbury Festival?
Well, because I was milking cows for years. I mean, we were milking cows on the farm for 150 years, you know. So the 5th generation. Because my great grandfather moved up from Dorset with a herd of cows years and years ago, 150 years ago. And so I suddenly thought, well, hang on, I could be doing something else to make my life a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
And so I went off to the Bath Blues Festival with a girlfriend, and we were a bit all lovey-dovey and everything. It was just right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And at the end of the Flower Power era, and it was Love Not War stuff then, in those days, in the late 60s. And it was just a job. I was in love with a lovely lady and everything. And so I went to the Bath Blues Festival, and I was just right for it, really. I fell in love with it straight away, and I thought I must be doing this myself on my own farm one day. And I couldn't wait to get started, and I did it the same year, actually.
Wow, that's dedication.
It only took me 6 months to get started.
Wow.
I'm fast moving, see, I don't hang around. So that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was very small, it was very sort of wild in those days. And people said, wouldn't it be nice? But no, it wasn't. It wasn't anything like what it is like today. It's much better today.
Well, good for me then.
Yeah, you're lucky, yeah, absolutely. How old are you then?
18.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Have you been going lots of times? Have you?
I think we worked out that I've been 13 times.
Have you?
Yeah.
Come this year, did you?
Yeah.
It's great this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like
Perfect.
it. Yeah.
The best year ever. Right, okay, next question then.
Why is it called Glastonbury Festival when it is in Tilton?
Well, because the farm belonged to Glastonbury Abbey originally. The tithe barn was built on the farm. Okay, that was a monk's barn. So it's got Glastonbury history, it really has. But it's the real reason was that there was a book that was written in 1970 called The View of Atlantis by a chap called John Michel. He was a friend of mine. He was a little bit of a hippie chap, really, but I mean, very cleverly. He went to Eton and everything. And he had good brains, and he was quite a posh sort of background. Apart from all that, and he was a good writer, and he used to write all these stories about ley lines and things. And so his book was very popular in 1970, 71. And he depicted Glastonbury as being, he called it the New Jerusalem, you know, the New Age sort of equivalent to Jerusalem, where all the religions would actually converge and they'd all mix, and people would be looking for a new form of spirituality and stuff. So Glastonbury was he called it the New Jerusalem, and so he came up and he came up with the idea of the pyramid stage and also the name, because it fitted in with his sort of vision of Glastonbury. And it's very close. I mean, we've got the tour, you can see the tour right in front of us, and as I say, it did belong to the Abbey at one time. And we've got the tithe barn to prove it, the tithe barn's on the farm. And but John Michel actually steered me in that direction, and it was such a good decision. And I saw him before he died about 2 or 3 years ago, and so I thanked him, you know, for the ideas. And so, at Castle Cary Station, catching a train to London. And the last time I saw him, because he died just after that. And he said, but Michael, he said, you made it work. He said, thank you for that.
Oh, no, that's nice.
Isn't it nice? Yeah. It's great. It's so good there. It's the best accolade I ever had, really. I'm coming from John.
Yeah.
Okay, there's your answer.
Thank you.
Good answer, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a good answer.
Right.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. What is the biggest problem on site?
What's the biggest problem?
Mm.
Well, there aren't any real problems actually. The movement of crowds is something we have to be careful about, because there's a lot of people moving around, especially down in the naughty corner. There's so much going on down, and after midnight they all go down there, don't they? And they rush down there. That is quite the most difficult thing to organise at night, I think.
It's almost like rush hour in general day life.
I mean, it's rush at midnight, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, it is. They'll be doing there like lemmings, Like when the dust band's on, everybody goes towards the east. It's like going into Mecca or something. And they swarm in there,
Do you personally choose bands?
Well, I get involved with bands. I mean, I've got a team of about 6 people that are choosing, or that's doing all the work on the booking. But I speak to them every day, and we speak to each other every day.
Mm.
And see how we're going with things like headlines next year. And I do have a steer on it, yeah.
So do you already have
But my
something
daughter
else?
does a lot, and also her husband and the chap in Bath and Bristol and down in Surrey. I've got good people that are really planning the programming. They do all the dance music. I'm not interested in the dance music myself, and so I'm not very good at that. So the chap in Bristol does most of the dance booking.
Yeah.
And then the jazzy sort of stuff, but that's a chap from Bath who has the main steer on that.
Okay.
If I give him ideas all the time, I'm on the phone to someone in San Francisco yesterday, which everyone wants to play, and he hasn't got anywhere yet, but so I push him onto them a little bit.
Oh, wow.
See what
All
I mean?
over there.
Well, it's a chap I'm really keen on, and his band's a really good band, but we haven't made any inroads, through all the normal channels, so then I take it on then and make it happen.
Okay.
There's so many people that are choosing stuff, and there's so many bands in the world that we want to play. There's a lot that we don't want,
Yeah.
isn't there?
There are lots of bands.
Yeah, what's your name then?
Rain.
Lorraine?
Just Rain. It's in
Just
weather
Rain, as in Rain. Oh, why did you choose that name for her then?
We just thought it was pretty. We like the name.
Has it got an E on the end or anything?
No, it's exactly just like.
Just Rain, that's unusual. Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
Is that enough?
I think that's right. I don't know if they wanted to ask. Do we have a question to ask? Anyone?
DD.
Didi?
Do you want to have a look at
Have a go. You can ask one question if you want.
Have you got a question of your own? I bet Joe's got a good. So where's Joe? Is Joe still there?
You can think if you can think.
Has Joe got a question, Joe?
Joe's was. Yeah, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a question.
Come on, come sit down in the seat. In the special seat.
I've only got one.
Right, one good question. Come on then.
How many years have you been running the festival?
How many years? Well, it's since 1970. It hasn't been every year though, you see. So that's 43 years ago. But it's not every year, because every 5th year we take off, don't we? We have 4 on and 1 off. And so, I can't work that out. We take off every 5th year. So, it's about...
8, 9.
It's probably... Eh? No, it's more than that.
20.
But it's about 24, I would say. Yeah. It might even be... Are you sure it's not 30? I'll have to count this out. But it started 43 years ago. So next year will be 44 years. So it'll soon be 50 years, won't it?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Sam, did you also have any cows today?
How are you getting on with Ben? You still playing with Ben?
Right, okay, great. So,
Good, lovely.
they've got one, there's I think 2 more and then that'll be
How about Sam?
Sam? Or,
No, but Dee. Moment.
Sorry, pretty long.
Are you Rain's sister, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, what's your name? Jude.
Yeah.
It's Judy of Sure, yeah?
Just Jude.
J-U-D-E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Beatles song.
Yeah, that's a good name.
She was there for when they sang that one as well at the festival.
But Thomas Hardy wrote a thing, didn't he? Judy of Sure.
Yeah.
So that's going back a lot further than Beatles. Yeah. Hey Jude, yeah. Nice song that, wasn't it?
Everyone sings it.
You named after that song, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, okay.
Does it surprise you every year how fast tickets sell?
Yeah, it does actually. It's absolutely miraculous, isn't it? And I still don't know why they sell so fast, really. Yeah, that is incredible, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't always sell out like that. It didn't used to. It goes in fits and starts. Sometimes it goes crazy and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know what the difference is. I really don't. But yeah, it's a good thing it's so popular. We've got 1 million people now that are pre-registered to buy tickets, you know. 1 million. So there's only 1 in 7 that can actually come.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot now. Have you done well? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When you first started planning Glastonbury Festival, did you always try to get these big bands, or did you try to keep it local?
Oh no, I tried to get the best bands I could. And I've always tried to get the biggest bands, otherwise the tickets are on sale, you see. Hold on local bands and you won't sell any tickets. So you go bankrupt very quickly.
When you are booking bands, do you always aim them for certain age groups? Like, we'll book this band for the older people who know they are, or
yeah,
this young
stages,
band for the teenagers?
Very different stages, you see. We've got the other stage, which is for the younger group, and also I mean, it's a dance village, so it's all full of kids bands, really. But the Pyramids are usually older band for older people like myself. But then there's the acoustic stage, that's for older people as well. And Avalon stage, and they're all for different age groups really. And there's the kids field stages, they're for tiny tots.
Yeah.
That you have. So the whole range of stages which cater for different kinds of music for different age groups. Is that alright?
That's great.
Very good.
We've got just 2, Dee, do you want to go ahead?
I wrote Sam. Oh, Dee
Sam,
Dee.
sorry,
Well done. So Dee Dee's just moved into the village and her mummy gets involved with everything. She's marvellous, isn't she? She's helping with everything. And so it's a great improvement to the village. There's a little family moving in. It's lovely, excellent, well done. So how's the baby? How's Spike?
Really good.
Yeah, we named your field after Spike, you know that?
No.
Imagine you. Oh, we've got a new area this year called Spike. Yeah, well, seriously.
Just 1 hour.
Latest news. Yeah, that's real news. That hasn't been announced before. Alright, what's your question?
How long does it take to prepare the festival?
Every year, you mean?
Yeah.
We work all the year round. Actually, we're working all the year round on it now. So there's never any time off, really. But years ago, it was about 6 months' work, I suppose. But now it's over a year now. It's so much bigger, you see. It's one of the biggest shows in the world, and it's very complicated as well. We're doing so much sort of stuff that's original and it's never been done before and everything. So it takes a lot more work, a lot more time. So it's full time now. So there we are. Any more questions?
Yeah. How long does it take to clear up all the mess?
Yeah, it takes about 5 weeks normally. It costs £500,000 to clear up all the rubbish. In a fine year though, in a dry year it's a lot easier. when it's wet and muddy, it takes longer.
More people leave their tents, don't they, when it's wet?
Yeah, some people do, but we're doing a lot more off-site camping now. Where we put the tents up, we keep the tents, and so they don't bring tents.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better.
That's better, yeah.
So we've got 10,000 people now that are using our own tents, so they don't leave them behind.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Because we pack them up and we use them so year in, year on. So we use them for about 15 years or something. So they've got a long life, you see. And so there's no waste of material or anything.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Good.
It's a good idea. Is that anything else?
I think, did you want to...
That's it. Thank you for coming. Lovely, well done. Right, now.
Every time you think it's over, there's one more.
Yeah, there's not many more, is there?
Yeah.
How many cows have you got during the festival?
Well, we got the same number of cows all the time. We got 400 cows and 250 baby cows. They're called heifers because they're not milking at the moment. They're not old enough. So we've got 400 milking cows that give you milk all the time. And the next question.
How many people are there on site during the festival?
Well, there's nearly 200,000 altogether. We sell about 147 or 150,000 tickets, and then there's 50,000 people that don't pay because they're working for us, or they live in the village, a bit like you do, because they're free. You get 3,000 people get free tickets because it's here and at East Pennard and all round about, you know. So 3,000 of those. For the children under 14, or under 13 actually, is up to 12 going free. There's 7,000 of those. So they all make up 150,000. And it goes on, and the non-payers are on top of that figure, you see. So it's nearly 200,000 altogether. And all the workers, policemen, security, all performers, the dancers, and all the theatres, circus, all Greenfields, or Arcadia, and all the other areas.
Yeah, that's a
the
lot
whole
of
thing
people.
comes to 200,000 altogether. Okie dokie.
How long is the festival mainly for adults or children? Or both?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really for adults, it's not really for children, but there are about probably 10,000 children. So quite a lot. Yeah, we've got two children areas. They're very, very popular actually. But primarily it's for adults really, originally.
Well, does it
But they all
matter?
have babies, so you got to bring the children. What?
Does it matter if children come or not?
But no, it doesn't matter. No, I mean we like children to come, but we don't like dogs to come. but we love children coming. Yeah, and of course it's free for them as well, for the ones. But dogs are difficult to control really, and some of them are quite dangerous and everything.
Yeah.
So we've got a ban on dogs, but not. But we love. I mean, we encourage children to come.
Yeah, because they go into the.
Well, they play in the children's areas, yeah, and I mean we've all got. I got 17 grandchildren myself, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they all come. So you multiply that up, you get a lot of children, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
thank you for the questions.
That's okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Thank you,
well done.
Michael. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, dear. Thank you very much.
This is Bob Solway. That's right. Yeah, and the date of the interview is the 7th of April. It's at Cheddar Fire Station. Ben Stevens is conducting the interview, and this is interview record number 2. Okay, that's grand. I'll start off. So What work did you do at the festival?
Back when I went to the festival, it at the time was Somerset Fire Brigade, and they were tasked with maintaining emergency fire cover for incidents that happen across the site, and also covering the fire safety side of events in different tented structures and the marshalling of people in and out, due to the fact that some of these groups were using pyrotechnics and that sort of thing. So it was purely a marshalling and advice side by the brigade.
Okay. So it's kind of chances of fire from
That's right,
pyrotechnics.
exactly right, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what sort of hours did you work?
At the time, we were working a 24-hour shift, and then we would come away from it. Based on the fact that it would be on a rotating basis, I did 2 24-hour stints over a period of one festival one year. There's an opportunity now it's more established, for the fire crews, the same fire crews, to stay on site all the time, which obviously makes it a lot easier for managing processes, and they actually sleep on site now. But when I did it, it was a 24-hour shift, from sort of 7 in the morning right the way through to the following 7.
Quite intense then.
Oh yeah, you're on the go all the time. Yeah.
Okay. What were the most challenging parts of this job?
Obviously, the way that the site was laid out, having not been familiar with it, we were getting called to incidents that we were just plotting on a grid system. We were actually placed in a compound with the other emergency service, the police and the ambulance service, or the medical site service as it was at the time. The biggest challenge for us was to locate incidents within camping fields. Obviously, if it was something we could obviously see, we could follow the smoke, but other things that perhaps not so serious, was very difficult to locate, especially at night.
I can imagine with the amount of sunlight, size of the site.
Yeah,
as well.
it's really unbelievable. The vehicle that we were using, fortunately, was a vehicle that we don't have at the station now because it's got old and it's been retired. It was brilliant for that because with the terrain it was going over, and it was quite small and nimble to go driving in and out of things. Obviously, when you're going through camping fields and the amount of people that are around, you've got to be very, very careful that driving over anything, perhaps you might think would be a black bag, it could be somebody in a sleeping bag going to sleep, that sort of thing. So you've got to be very, very careful.
Yeah, because people are laying out and
chilling out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Would you ever go back to working at the festival? Or
I would, if things changed. I done 1 year, and it was a year that was when it was really wet. Everything was literally like a mud bath, and I said when I came away from it, that's my stint done at Glastonbury festivals. It was an unlucky one because of the way they've had a couple of wet ones in the last sort of 10 years, and it's just the way that the cookie crumbles really. I don't think with the setup that there is now, I don't think I could make myself available to go for the week or the 10 days, because they get on site I think on the Tuesday before.
Yeah,
and they run the fog. Yeah, and they're a long time, and then they're putting up emergency lights and all that sort of thing. So it's
okay. Well, that actually leads on. I was going to say, does the weather obviously affect?
It does.
Your role?
It's an absolute nightmare, and your heart goes out to these people, because. We were fortunate enough to have at least somewhere relatively dry to go and sit, whereas people that are actually visiting the festival just tend to, once they get wet, what happens then is once it starts drying out, the ground becomes very sticky. It's like walking around in porridge, and then you get people falling over, and then the ambulance can't get to them, and then we get involved, and it's just an absolute catastrophic.
I actually went 1 year, and it was like that. It was just a nightmare.
Absolute nightmare. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think the festival benefits local charities and organisations?
Of course it does. It's a phenomenal achievement to put an event on like that, and you can't explain to people what it's like, because there is something there for literally everybody, and if you can think of any particular item and it'll be there, and you've got to see it to believe it. We were very privileged when we went to obviously have passes that we could go backstage. We had no restriction on where we could go, purely because of the likelihood of fire. We had like a big green pass card, and we could go anywhere. And I'll always remember, the biggest thing I'll always remember about 1 year was actually going backstage when Sheryl Crow was playing and looking out on about 130 odd thousand people. And it all you could see was heads, and it was absolutely unbelievable. And they all jumping up and down. It was absolutely brilliant. I'll never ever forget it. Never ever forget it. Phenomenal.
I was going to say, do you feel that out of line communities benefit as much as, say, the inner communities like
They
Taunton?
do, yeah.
Or?
Oh yeah, that's right. And it is awkward for the villages and that sort of thing. But I think what Michael Eavis does do for charities and in third world countries, water aid and that sort of thing, it's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good, and I'm sure they benefit quite well from it. And the community,
the charities do,
and all the charities, yeah.
Okay. Well, that was it actually. I only had 10 questions, and that was pretty much all of them. So,
okay,
yeah,
that's good. If you're happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's fine.
I could ask you just quickly, what was your sort of favourite moment at the festival? Did you have a favourite one?
The Sheryl Crow moment took some beating, and we had numerous jobs to go to, some funny jobs and some not so funny jobs, but it was just sort of meeting and greeting people. Do you know what I mean? There's just a vast amount of different styles and ethnic groups, and the vast array of people, and everybody's in the groove, and we're all trying. Obviously, with an emergency service, we've got to be a little bit sort of, keeping it up at lower levels. But it's very difficult not to get drawn along with everybody else. Do you know what I mean? And enjoy as much as they do.
Get sucked in.
Into the loop. But it's really good. No, excellent.
Great. Okay. Oh, well, that's it.
Okay.
Then. Yeah, thanks for that, Mark.
Okay, this is interview number 3 with Robert Curl, and this is at Glastonbury Worthy Farm, and it's on 23rd of April.
In the Do Funny at Goose Hall.
Yep, that's right. The first question is, what do you do at the festival?
Anything and everything that Michael wants me to do.
Okay.
Yeah, Glastonbury Festival and Worthy Farm is unlike any other business. You don't really have a set role or set of work, or
It's interchangeable.
It's very changeable. So at the moment we're building this big kitchen extension and doing lots of groundworks. We also look after the trees and the wildlife and do all the rubbish and litter and recycling. But basically anything that the Eavis family want me to do.
So you sort of come in a day, and it, like you say, it changes everything. Sort of like you'd be doing something totally different.
Yeah, Michael will rock up and go, he's come up with some new idea, and you have to go off and do that. So whatever you plan to do that day is totally changed.
Sounds like my job. So how many hours do you generally do in a day?
Oh, it varies. We're probably doing sort of 10 hours down here at the moment, so this time of year, and then probably a couple of hours of office work back home each day, but that will then go up to doing probably 18 hours a day over sort of June and July.
So the run up to the festival.
Yeah, and then obviously the big clear up afterwards.
What's the most challenging parts of your work? So just a general.
Dealing with bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Basically.
So that's sort of getting things in motion, paperwork or...
Yeah, paperwork, office work, dealing with silly inquiries from bureaucratic bodies that really don't have any idea what we're doing but seem to think they have some right to try and control it. Which is fine if you're dealing with someone that understands what you're doing.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with people that really don't have any clue, you end up going massively in circles because, most bureaucrats like, nice neat ticks in boxes. But of course, lots of what we do don't fit in any box. And they don't really understand that.
You have to create a box then to put it...
Exactly, yeah. And,
it's kind of...
and ultimately, it's completely pointless in the first place. But, you have all these government bodies that seem to think they're in charge of things. And they don't really have a clue. We see that on the sunset levels with the Environment Agency, don't we?
For sure.
If they'd have left that alone to the local land drainage people and the local landowners and farmers, wouldn't have been a problem in the first place, would there?
Would have been dredged, I suppose.
Would have been dredged, would have been looked after properly, would have been maintained at a fraction of the cost that the bureaucratic agency charge. And there wouldn't have been half the problem, would there? Obviously the land would have flooded down there, but very few of the houses would have flooded.
Yeah. That's
And that's just the problem with modern Britain, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a sort of overarching...
You see all these wonderful programmes on telly where people are looking back at the Victorian engineers and even before the Victorian engineers, you know, Thomas Telford and Brunel and all that. They could never have done anything in modern Britain, could they? With all the fools that are in charge.
Not with health and safety as well.
Well, health and safety's fine. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's looking after people's welfare.
But it's the actual getting the logistics.
But actually, most of what it is just whether you've got the correct paperwork in place. Not whether you've got the correct procedures in place, not whether actually you've got the competent people to do the job.
No, I know that. You have to go through that, have that in place before you do anything else.
It's more about ticking boxes and filling forms. Which doesn't save anybody from having an accident.
No.
What saves people from having accidents is having competent people in place in the first place, isn't it? And making sure that how they're working is in a correct and safe manner.
That's like risk assessments and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, having sensible people coming in and going, actually, no, we need to do X, Y, and Z first before we can do this, and that will then make it safe.
So what sort of, do you have a specific role that you do most of your work with, or is there anything like that you...
Well, I think my title is Environment and Rubbish Manager, or a Rubbish Manager if you want to be funny about it. But not particularly, no, it's just dealing with lots of day-to-day stuff. Okay. Obviously we plan out lots of work, that we do, but that's always interrupted by other things.
Sure. So there's a lot of work going on site at the moment.
Yeah, masses.
So there's a lot of new buildings being put in.
Well, we're doing this new sort of kitchen place for the crew catering. There's 1,000 people a day get fed here out of this little building. So obviously it was time we had a new kitchen to do that. It's a great design, isn't it? Yeah. And obviously they're building lots more long drop toilets on site, and there's quite a bit of drainage work going on and road improvements, and I think we're going to be putting in more cabling for the BBC, and there's obviously works to the water network and electric network going on, and then there's obviously massive amounts of office work going on, purchasing things, dealing with contractors.
Sure. Getting all the sort of musical equipment and stages.
Yeah, getting everything, it's sort of wonderfully split up and into its own little zones and areas, so everyone has a sort of zone of influence.
That's good.
That they sort of deal with and they're in charge of. And then there's people like us that sort of cross over many of them and just sort out
so
problems.
You sort of, move around.
Yeah.
I see. So kind of like putting out fires and things, or like, dealing with situations.
Yeah, just helping people out. I see half my job is just helping other people. And that's a great job to have, really, isn't it?
Do you think the festival's had a good impact on local communities around this way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't plonk a business the size of this in the middle of open countryside without having a massive positive influence over it. I mean, someone did a study a few years ago, and it's something like it adds 60 million to the local economy. I mean, that's the biggest business in the area.
It's huge, isn't it? Yeah.
It's huge. So you just couldn't replicate that with anything else, could you?
No, it's because I've been working with a group in Pilton, and they know the festival really well. They've been here a few times. And
well, if you just look at Pilton itself, I mean, the festival's renovated the village hall and the Worker Meds Club. I think that totals somewhere near £1 million. I mean, it's put something in the region of 300,000 into the playing fields in the last 10 years. I mean, any other village in the country would just be staggered at the sums that have got ploughed back into the village.
It's impressive for
just directly, let alone the indirect things of wages. I live in the village, so the fact that I can earn good wage here, which is quite rare in the countryside these days, that money obviously goes around the local economy, and let alone all the other people that are here.
Sure.
I mean, there's already 60, 70 people working on site, and they're either local people or they're living locally, and so their money goes around the local economy.
That's going to number into the thousands.
And that's, oh yes, give it another month and that's going to be, into the thousands. That's an awful lot of money going around a small rural economy, isn't it?
I suppose once you think, if you think about, they say that if it's just a rural economy, then bringing in something that's sort of like a massive festival like this.
Well, essentially, you've plonked a city in the middle of the open countryside, haven't you?
Huge city.
And look at the economy of that. So, of course, it's a massive, massive boost to the local economy.
I've actually worked with the community in Rodney Stoke, and it's kind of, you notice how Pilton's benefited.
Yeah. But then other villages benefit, because lots of them come and volunteer to do work to raise money for their village hall or their school or their or whatever they're interested in those communities, and that stretches out quite far. And there's people coming from the other side of Bridgewater to raise money and do stuff for their little thing.
It's all over Somerset.
So it's pretty much all over Somerset, yeah.
What do you think about the sort of effects on local charities? Do you think local charities benefit, and alongside the larger charities?
Oh, absolutely, massively. I mean, just like what we said with the local volunteer groups, if you're a school PTA and you can send, 30 or 40 people down here for a long weekend, and you can take back a cheque for £5,000 or £10,000, that's an awful lot of coffee mornings and cake sales, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
And there's dozens and dozens of those local charitable groups, let alone, what the festival just donates to local charities. And again, there's also that if people are making plenty of money here themselves, they're more likely to donate to their local charities. If you're living on the breadline locally, which a lot of people in the countryside are, but if you're working here and you're making good money out of it, then you can afford to give some of that to local charities.
And there's a lot of low incomes, isn't there, and things like that? Yeah, I know. So do you think as well the festival's changed over the years at all? Is it sort of...
It's got an awful lot bigger. It's got a lot calmer, a lot more family friendly. It did go through, like any kind of thing, it goes through its, I guess, adolescent stage, doesn't it, where it was a bit sort of running wild.
That's the time I went about 10 to 12 years ago. Actually,
personally, I really enjoyed it. It was quite dangerous. And you speak to a lot of people of an older generation now who've got kids of their own who come, and they're sort of quite grateful now that it's a bit calmed down and there's more security and stewarding. But it's keeping that balance. It's not, you don't want it to become too tame.
Sure.
And too controlled, because then otherwise it's a bit boring.
It loses the edge of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, we have the naughty corner, the late night stuff, and I think that sort of helps to maintain that sort of edgy feel that everyone used to enjoy.
That's the Shangri-La and all that.
Or Unfairground Shangri-La. We turn at the naughty corner now.
That's where you keep all that going.
Although wonderful Arcadia has popped out of there and gone over the other corner.
Yeah, I did see it. Looked so impressive actually. All that sort of
it was fantastic, isn't it? And you just can't beat them, can you?
No. It was amazing. I wasn't here. I would love to have come. But
all the fire and lightning. And I mean, the other thing to remember, of course, is the festival buys an awful lot of its materials locally. So if you go to the local builders merchants, for instance, we're probably their biggest customers.
Sure.
And local firms like that, as well as people working here. So, that money does really spread out.
So it filters back into the local economy.
Yeah. It's huge. It's tens of millions of pounds.
I was thinking, if the festival attracts like 250,000 people, isn't it, or whatnot?
Who knows? What's the licence?
I don't know, but so it must bring money.
And a lot of those people will stop off on the way at garages and things to fuel up their car, or buses come from local bus companies, train companies. The train station at Castlecarry obviously has a huge effect on their turnover, which probably helps them stay open.
Yeah, actually, yes.
And stuff like that. I mean, I don't think you could ever actually total up the Somerset benefits of having a big event like this every year. And the fact that it's every year, so it gives businesses that confidence to invest and move on. They know every single year this is going to happen, they can come in here, they can make some good money,
You can make projections and things.
Exactly.
And,
it's not.
So it's not like
because we've been going 44 years now. So, and every year it gets bigger, doesn't it?
Sells out faster, doesn't it?
Sells out faster. It's the envy of the world, isn't it? We win all the best festival in the world prize every single year. I mean, it really is. And there was something on back last winter, wasn't it? We're in the top 5 most fashionable brands in the world, and we're not even a brand.
No, but he's kind of made a brand, hasn't it? It's created.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of.
But we're not a brand. We're not Nike.
No,
we're not Apple. We don't actually sell anything.
No. And it's not really. I suppose it's not a logo. It's not a logo thing, is it? It's just a name.
But it's such a cool thing, and it's such an important thing in the sort of national culture that I don't think many people in Somerset realise. It's only when you go out of Somerset you actually realise just how huge it is.
Oh, it is massive.
It's absolutely massive. I first realised that when I went to university 20 years ago, and I went to York, and they go, "Oh, where do you come from?" And you say, "Oh my God, the festival!" You know, I said, "How do you know about that?" You know, because as a youngster, you think it's your little thing in your garden, sort of thing. And then everybody from the whole country knew exactly what you were on about because of the festival. And that was 20 years ago.
So do you think it's a fine line between, I suppose it's that thing of over commercialisation? Do you ever feel that that's one area the festival could?
No, there's no need, is there? No. There's no need. There's absolutely no point. You never really win on the sponsorship thing, do you?
No.
You never really get the value for what you're offering.
So you want the festival ideally is going to be kept sort of.
I don't think it will ever change from that format. Not, the next generation of the Eveses, Emily and Nick, they're not at all interested in sponsorships or commercialisation, or it just doesn't work if you don't keep to that core sort of basis of really it's just a big party.
Yeah, and you'd lose something, wouldn't you?
You'd lose it all, yeah. You lose the freedom for people. People like the fact that at this event you can go pretty much wherever you like without some big burly security man shouting at you or swearing at you or pushing you about. You go to lots of other big events, you can't go anywhere. I went to the Chelsea Flower Show 10 years ago and it was crowded with people like it is here, and I was walking just down this alleyway between the gardens and I was being shouted at by the stewards because I was walking the wrong way down this.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. I was supposed to be joining the end of some queue. I didn't even know there was a queue. You get a lot of that at other things where you're almost herded around like cattle.
No, you are, yeah. So is that something the festival's trying to avoid?
Absolutely, like the plague. I mean, a few years ago before Melvin went, and the Mean Fiddle a lot, they put in that queuing system for the late night zone. And everybody said it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But they, because of who they were, they said, okay, we'll give it a try. I think there was something like 30,000 complaints about it. It's just not what we do.
No, that's that organisational thing, isn't it? Making people go somewhere.
And that's why Arcadia got split out. It was like, okay, well, obviously everyone wants to go to this area, so we need to split that attraction, so that we don't have to put in bureaucratic things like queues.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's become sort of, I suppose the festival's become kind of a sort of for people in general, just to go, and everyone wants to have gone and at least been at the festival.
Well, I think a lot of it's
sort of brand. I mean, it's kind of an experience now, isn't it? Where someone's.
It's kind of one of those things you have to do in your life, isn't it? You've got to tick it off the box. But people like coming here because it's not like their daily life. It's not like going to the office or the factory where you're pushed around, told what you do. You got to plug in at the beginning. You can come here and just be yourself. If you ask the public to come here, they go, I can actually be myself for the weekend. I can do what I want to do. I can see what I want to see. Without people constantly pushing me around. Now, obviously, you've got to be some control. You've got to have a fence. You've got to control the numbers because I think nearly 1 million people registered for tickets this year. So,
I mean, the fence issue is something, isn't it? Because 10 years ago when I came, the fence was nowhere near the size it is now. Well,
I mean, it was always seen as a bit of a joke, wasn't it? We've got to have a fence, so we'll put one up, but we're not really going to be that interested.
No.
Until obviously we had that big year, was it 2000, I think, where
Yeah,
lots
I
of
remember
people
that,
just
yeah,
broke through. Well, of course you could, because even a child in a pram could have got through the fence. It was that wishy-washy. And then obviously we had to serious up and go, okay, we really have to. The demand for what we're putting on dictates that we have to control the numbers coming in. But once they're in, the ethos is not to control them any more than necessary, to allow people to have some freedom.
Yeah, that's what you need, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Rob.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, this is Anna Hedges,
Yep.
who works for WaterAid, and this is 24th of April in Pilton Youth Club. Ben Stevens is doing the interview, and this is number 4. So if you'd just like to introduce yourself.
My name's Anna Hedges and I work for WaterAid, and I look after our partnership with Glastonbury Festival. So I look after everything that we do on site, and also the things that we in the festival communicate about our partnership and how we work together on the projects that WaterAid deliver around the world.
Okay. So how long has WaterAid been working with the festival?
So actually it's our 20th anniversary year with Glastonbury Festival this year. So our partnership actually started because the Rotary Club of Shepton Mallet are WaterAid supporters, and they do a lot to support WaterAid in the local community, and they went along to the festival with an information stand about WaterAid, and since then the partnership's grown year on year, and we now have lots of different activities right across the site. So, but it really started from quite humble beginnings locally. Yeah.
Do you think the festival benefits from being associated with WaterAid?
I think so. I think when you think about a festival situation, I guess some of the things that immediately spring to mind for people when they think about being at a festival for 4 or 5 days are, where am I going to go to the toilet, or the toilets are disgusting, or how am I going to have some clean water to drink, or how am I going to wash, or it's not like being at home where you can just turn on a tap. So actually, because WaterAid works with water and sanitation across the developing world, there are really a lot of parallels between what WaterAid do and what festival goers might experience at a festival and at Glastonbury Festival. So I think it's a really good platform for WaterAid to be at the festival, but I also think it's really good for the festival to be highlighting water and sanitation issues to the people who are there on the site.
Do you think people who go to the festival sort of recognise and sort of take in the information?
I think the main thing that we do at the festival each year is we take a campaign. So we campaign to try to bring the message to world leaders that water and sanitation should be prioritised in whatever set of development goals are happening at that current time. At the moment, world leaders are coming together to decide what's happening after the Millennium Development Goal process, and we're campaigning to say that water and sanitation should be recognised at the very highest level, because we believe that it's the first step out of poverty for people around the world, is having access to water and sanitation. So last year at the festival we took our campaign petition there, which was called Pump Up the Volume, and it was about making as much noise as we could to those world leaders. But 35,000 people on site signed that petition. So we know that there's a lot of people at the festival who are listening to what we're saying and who are having those face-to-face conversations with our staff and our volunteers and learning about water and sanitation.
You can get like massive numbers of people involved from the festival, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's some stickers on all the loos, isn't there?
Yeah,
all the wash basins and everywhere.
We try to get ourselves out there sort of as much as we can across the festival. So our sort of mission really is that every single person who attends Glastonbury Festival will experience WaterAid in some way.
Yeah, whether they see it or like
definitely.
Okay. And do you think so? Does the festival sort of donate money to WaterAid?
So the festival financially supports its 3 official charities, which is Greenpeace, Oxfam and WaterAid. So we get a donation from the festival each year, which is put towards our work around the world. Yeah.
And how many times yourself have you been to the festival?
So I've been 3 times with WaterAid, but this year will actually be my 10th festival. So I used to love Glastonbury before I started working at WaterAid. And so it's interesting to see it on both sides actually, as a punter, so to speak, and then also working there and having. We work constantly. I think I watched one band last year, but it's not about that when you have a job like mine, really. So.
No, you sort of don't get a chance to do.
Well, we've got 200 War Trade volunteers on site, so it's really about coordinating all those people to do all the different things that the festival wants us to do there. So.
Wow. And do you think local communities around Pilton, do you think they benefit from the festival?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I know from any conversation that you have with anybody at the festival, the main concern is that the festival benefits the local, national and international community. That's what the festival's about, and I think it's possibly the only festival that's really retained that ethos in the current climate.
Yeah, it's not corporate.
It's not, and people knock it sometimes, but actually I think the fundamental ethos of the festival and the point of it is to bring goodness to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Locally and
I think
really far away.
The youth club's part of the festival, from the village hall and everything. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I've worked here for 9 months in Pilton, and so I get to see how it impacts on young people. But it's really positive, definitely. And do you do any other festivals? Do you work at any other War Trade work with any other?
We have done in the past a little bit, but not in the same way as we work with Glastonbury. I think Glastonbury gives us a platform which other festivals don't. So we have some African latrines on site. So we have toilets that are similar to some of the toilets that we have in our work, and they're actually up at the Stone Circle. So it's quite a crazy place for them to be. But they're really, really popular, and people come specifically to use those toilets because our volunteers keep them really clean.
Kinds of sawdust.
And
the long drops.
Exactly. Although to be fair to the festival, they've done so much work recently on improving the toilet facilities, and I think they're some of the best festival toilet facilities you'd find. I really do. So we have the toilets, and then we have our sheepy sites. We've had 2 of those in the past. We've actually got 3 this year, which are female urinals. And again, they're really, really popular. It means girls can go to the toilet quickly, hygienically, without having to go into a nasty portaloo. And we decorate them, and there's mirrors and little pamper areas and things. So girls just come in to the girls just come in to kind of chill out in there and stuff as well, which is good. And then for this year we've got 7 water kiosks across the site. So the festival are trying to reduce the amount of plastic waste they have. So they're trying to discourage people from buying lots of bottled water on site, and bring their own bottle and go to one of the refill points and fill up their water bottles themselves. So Water Aid are actually looking after those water kiosks as well, which is great.
I mean, imagine those water bottles, they get chucked everywhere, don't they?
Exactly. Well, I mean, anyone who's sort of been to Glastonbury and has seen the pyramid field on the Monday when everyone's leaving, it's just But I think so if everyone can kind of do their bit by bringing a longer water bottle that you can just go to a Water Aid point and get filled up with cold, clean water. Why wouldn't you really? I'd certainly do that rather than spend.
Do you think the festival made a lot of improvements with that in that sort of area?
Definitely. I think they're always thinking and they're always developing, and maybe the year off in 2012 also gave everybody more time to just think about what new things they could put in place, but particularly with toilet and water facilities, I think they continue to improve over time, definitely.
That's great.
Definitely.
Do you do? So have you been abroad to work in other countries yourself?
I haven't worked on water aid projects in other countries, but I have visited some of the work that we've done. Glastonbury are supporting some of our work in Nepal, so they're linking in with our campaign this year, which is called Change the Record, which is about opening up the future for young girls in particular, because it's girls and teenage girls typically who bear the greatest burden of collecting water. So they have to drop out of school, they have to stay at home with their parents, they don't get a chance to have a future or any opportunity. And so the festival went out to see some of the girls that we're working with on that campaign who live in Nepal.
Must have been amazing.
Yeah.
I suppose it's they sort of they don't, like you say, don't have access to education or sort of.
It's really difficult, and some girls, very, very young girls, are spending 4 or 5 hours a day walking to and from water sources just to collect enough water for their household's needs. So water is quite often a girl's issue, particularly with teenage girls as well, because they, once they get to teenagers and they start having their periods and things, it becomes more, you can't, if you don't have access to clean water, how can you keep yourself clean? And they start having pride in yourself as well. So there's a lot of different issues that, that can be taken into consideration. But our particular campaign this year is really looking at young people, but young girls in particular, and how giving access to water and sanitation really opens up lots more opportunities for people.
I understand that. I mean, once you've got the water and access to that, then everything starts from that, doesn't it? It goes up.
A lot of the stuff we do as well is we tend to, so our projects are all community led. So a lot of young people, a lot of young women in our the communities that we work in, they're trained to then be perhaps health workers in their local community. So they go around in their community and they educate people about hygiene practices, hand washing, about the reasons why people do need a clean toilet, reasons why people do need clean water to drink, and reasons why people might be getting sick if they're not drinking clean water. And also things like we also train caretakers that tend to be a lot of young people. So once we've input a water system in a community, we train the people in that community to maintain it, so that we can then take ourselves away from that community.
That's like wells and
it's lots of different technologies really.
Well, I think that's it.
Sorry, I could go on. I could go on.
I want to go work there now.
That's insane.
We need a job.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem.
My name is Lilith.
My name is Naomi.
And we're going to be interviewing Sam and Ben. The date of the interview is the 8th of the 5th, 2014.
The place of the interview is the Working Men's Club in Pilton.
And the record number is 7.
First question. How many times have you been to the festival?
I have been about 7 or 8, I think.
I've been about 5 or 6. I've missed 2 years ago. I've been small.
Okay. Were you there the whole time and did you see everything?
Well, I think over the years I've seen mostly everything that I've wanted to see, but it's always changing, so you can never see everything.
I used to only go one day, but last year I went 2 days, but because I let my mum and dad just
If you have been more than once, what year was your favourite and why?
Probably last year, because you had in Arcadia you had the Electric Men and all the great stuff going on there.
My best year was 2009 because they actually had arcade moving and like bouncing up and down, and actually they moved the feet forwards and backwards, so it was actually moving by itself.
Okay. What's your favourite band, and do you think they're going to play next year?
Well, I don't really have a set personal band, but there's some bands I quite like, Skrillex, and they're playing.
So mine's the best. My best one is Skrillex as well. There's been rumours that they're playing, and there's been rumours about Lily Allen, but Skrillex has been actually posted on the Glastonbury Festival website.
Have you always been a villager? And if not, do you prefer to be a villager or a festival goer?
I haven't always been a villager, but I moved here when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and from then I've gone to the festival, and I prefer it as in the village you get like free passes, and you can visit back to your house anytime and you don't have to be stuck on the farm.
I've always been a villager since I was a baby, and I like being a villager because you get free tickets, and also when you're young you don't have to go in, but next year I did.
Okay. When you are older, would you stay in the village for a free ticket?
I'd probably stay in the village, but not just for the free ticket. The free ticket's probably just a bonus, because Pilton is a very nice place.
I wouldn't stay here for the tickets. I'd stay here because I'm going to be a farmer, and hopefully when I'm older I can go work down the Worthy Farm, Glass Festival site, and then help my dad as a student, and also my hobby is RCing, so I hope if I can stay in the village I will use my RCs out on the field.
Would you rather be in the crowd or at the outside of the performance?
I'd rather be in the crowd because you can have a lot more fun, and instead of standing on the outside getting cold and not really doing a lot.
I would happily have neither. I'd happily go backstage. I'd like to go backstage.
Okay. What's one of the best experiences you've had at the festival?
Probably in the dance tents where we got right up close to some of the people singing, and the guy singing actually took the hat off my head that I was wearing and wore it himself.
My best moment has been when I went backstage and I saw someone that was really famous.
Have you met any famous people there, and who are they?
I haven't met someone really famous, but there's a friend of my mum's who we met in the dance tent called DJ Zed, and I met him there, but apart from that, not really.
I think I met I think I met will.i.am. I met someone, but I just can't really remember his name.
What is your most valued find when the festival ends?
I think we found a 5-man tent, which was a fairly decent one, and always the best are the blow-up beds, which you can have a lot of fun on water.
My favourite was finding that silver sticky tape, and then I put it in one of my friend's hair, and it took him a couple of days to get it out, and he had to cut his hair to get it out.
What are the thoughts about Glastonbury Festival?
I think all round it's great. It serves a purpose for all ages, which I think is a good thing in a festival, as you can get lots more people then.
I think it was because it attracts loads of people, but then it's okay, but the only problem is after the festival you've got all the rubbish to pick up, and then you've got all the the fields are damaged really badly, so then you've got to get it all fixed before, so we can put the cows out and everything.
Do you think Michael Levis is inspirational?
I think he's a little inspirational with people that want to go out and host something like a huge festival.
He is inspirational, but it's not for the festival. But when he was quite younger, he always used to milk the cows and then feed the cows.
Do you think the festival has a positive or a negative impact or effect on the village?
I think it has a negative impact, but also a positive at the same time, because although you get all the rubbish and waste that you get out of cars and out in the rubbish, you also get a little bit of vandalism sometimes, but apart from that it's fairly good. Not a lot else happens to the Pilton, but it does make it less traffic in Pilton. So.
It's a negative impact because there's those people in the village.
Does the festival traffic affect your school journeys?
Sometimes, some years it's really slow, but since they've got the car parks outside the festival, I think it's been a lot better.
It used not to be when I used to go to my primary school, but now I have to go to school on Monday after the festival. I don't think I'm going.
Do you feel other communities miss out on benefits that Pilton receives, such as the village hall and the playing field?
I do, because the children brought up there don't have as much fun, and maybe they need new opportunities to go out, learn something at the skate park or something, like the park.
Not trying to be mean to this village, but I think this village is kind of spoiled having Mike Leeds in this village. You get loads of stuff, and they're like really good.
But then the houses are expensive.
Yeah, but that's just because you get free passes.
Well, thank you for your free time and letting us interview you.
No problem.
Hello, my name is Chantal.
And I'm Jess.
We're interviewing Joe and Finn, and the date is 8th of the 5th, 2014. Interview record is 8. And we're interviewing at Hilton Workmen's Club. How many times have you been to the festival?
Well, I've been about 3 to 4 times, maybe more.
If you have been more than once, which year was your favourite and why?
My favourite was last year because you got to see like all the amazing stuff.
Have you always been a villager? And if not, do you prefer to be a villager or a festival goer?
I've always been a villager and I always will, and it's fantastic.
When you were older, would you stay in the village for your free ticket?
When I'm older, I would definitely stay in the village, but it's not just for the tickets. I would definitely stay here, and it's beautiful in the village, so it's not just for the festival tickets.
It's not about the ticket that counts. It's about my whole family was grown up in Pilton, so I would stay there.
Would you rather be in the crowd or at the outside of the performance?
I would rather be in the crowd because it's like you get all the atmosphere of everyone being around.
I love being in the crowd. What's one of the best experiences you've had at the festival?
All of it, and like going down, and you can just walk there instead of having to travel a long way.
Have you met any of the famous people there and who were there?
I haven't, but I would love to.
I've met Michael before. What is your most funny find when the festivals end? Well, I think that's funny. You go.
Okay. Once I found a massive tent before they got all crushed. I love that part.
Well, I went down with Ben Carr one day. He found a sticky tape and stuck it in my hair. Now I found a big roll of paper and I smacked him on the head with it.
and that's how Joe got shorter hair from now on.
What are your thoughts about Glastonbury Festival?
I'm not quite sure, but I think this is Joe.
It's epic, amazeballs, and it's really good experience because you get to meet loads of people, you get to see your friends, you get to do stuff. Yeah.
Do you think Mike Leeds is inspirational?
I think he is, yes.
Do you think the festival has a positive or negative impact or effect on the village?
Well, it sort of has a positive and negative at the same time because you have to clean up with mess that.
You get to see all the great bands and everything, but sometimes it's like the pollution with all the cars and the
human waste. There's human waste on the farm.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, does the festival traffic affect your school journey? Yeah, I never go to school on the festival time because it's my birthday on the 23rd of July.
And it sort of does because we sometimes miss school.
Okay, thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Hello, we're at Hilton Working Men's Club and the date is the something of the something.
No. 8th of May.
8th of May. I'm gonna ask.
It's you're interviewing Sue.
I'm interviewing Sue and
Naomi.
How many times have you been to the festival?
5 or 6 times.
Probably about 10, 11 times.
Were you there the whole time? Did you see everything? I think I saw everything, but I don't really know.
Saw most things, lots of bands, lots of events, lots of installations.
If you have been more than once, what year was your favourite and why?
Last year was my favourite year because I like the static men, people, things. I don't know what they are. And the big spider.
I like 2011. It was a great band. And it was sunny and really hot.
What's your favourite band? Do you think they are going to play next year?
James Blunt is my favourite band. Yeah, I do think they're going to play.
Blondie are playing this year. I'd like to see Blondie, I guess. Debbie Harry.
Do you prefer to be a villager or a festival goer?
I've never been to the festival, not in the village, so I've only been in the festival in the village.
When you're older, will you stay in the village with free tickets?
I wish I lived in the village to get free tickets. And when I'm older, if I'm still alive, I'll still go.
It's not just the free tickets that I like, it's the countryside.
It's a beautiful setting. Beautiful sight with lots of exciting things going on.
Would you rather be in the crowd or in the... where am I? Outside of the performance.
Sometimes I like to be on the outside just to chillax.
Yeah. It depends on the musicians and the acts really, because sometimes you want to be right up front. Sometimes you can sit on the edge and on the hills. It's fine. You can actually sit on Glastonbury tour and hear it, and you can. Or you don't even have to be in the festival to hear it. The wind carries the sound, so you can be miles away to hear it.
What's one of the best experiences you have had at the festival?
Seeing Bruce Springsteen in concert.
Seeing Example.
Have you met any of the famous people there, and who were they?
I've never met anyone famous.
I saw Jonathan Kaner, who's a famous astrologer. I was on my bike and he looked out of his car at me in the mud. We said hello and smiled.
What is your most valued find when the festival ends?
Pop-up tents and lots of things like umbrellas and tents.
Bring some over.
What are your thoughts about Glastonbury Festival?
I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think they raise loads of money for all the charities like Oxfam, WaterAid, and Greenpeace. That's it.
Do you think Michael Eavis is inspirational?
Inspirational. Yeah, I think he's amazing. He started it years ago and it's still going years and years later, getting better and better in songs. I think it's a bit too commercialised now.
Commercialised?
Too commercialised. Yeah, it is a bit. It's lost its purity. And it's maybe got a little bit too big, but it's okay. It's brilliant.
Do you think the festival has a positive or negative impact on the village?
I would say negative and positive because then it will destroy the grass and the farm, but then it brings lots of people together.
They have a fallow year every 2 years, don't they, to let the land get back to normal, to give it a rest. But it has probably a negative impact on all the infrastructure of the area, people getting to work and travelling, and children getting to school. But on the whole, it's a positive experience for those who go.
Do you feel other communities must feel benefits?
There's lots of people benefit from the festival from the whole area because a lot of the people work at the festival. They get in and they get funds for their schools and organisations and clubs all around Somerset. Did you know that? Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Okay, that's it. And thank you very much.
Name of interviewee, Kathy Lowe. Date of interview, the 12th of the 5th, 2014. The place of the interview is Draycott and Rodney Stoke First School. And the name of the people that are doing the interviews are Georgia, Fallon, Emily, Jazz, Eloise and Marianne. And the interview recording is number 7. No, not number 7.
Sorry, number 9.
It's number 9. I don't know where I read 7.
What were your most memorable bits from the festival?
Well, some of it's to do with the actual festival and some of it's to do with the fact that people come and stay. So it's very nice that you have other people who come and stay to join with us when we go down to the festival. So that's always very memorable. The weather is always very memorable because either it's boiling hot or there's so much rain that we're squelching about in inches of the stuff, inches of mud. And of course Glastonbury mud is extremely memorable. It's mentioned frequently on television. And then there are the different acts, of course, which are always good fun, and some you specifically go and see, which is great because you know what they're going to be and you look forward to it, and then others you accidentally come upon and you think, that's really good, didn't even know they existed. So that's quite good, the discovery aspect of it. I like the fact that there's quite a lot of movement possible. You can go from one venue to another and there's lots to see on the way, so that's memorable too. There are lots of individual people there who are very different, so you've got an opportunity to meet different people if you want to. I guess that could cause some memorable encounters. Hasn't particularly to me, but I can imagine that it would. So I suppose those are the most memorable things. I always think it's very colourful, there's a lot to see as well as to hear. So it's all good fun.
What aspects do you enjoy about the festival?
I like the nearness of it. That's always good from my point of view because I live in the village, so it's easy for me to walk down to the festival without having to think about travelling by train. The things that I don't enjoy about the festival, let's think about that first. Not too many of them really. When the weather's awful, that's not great because there's not too many places to go to shelter, and walking about the site is very difficult then. And people are walking and they lose their Wellingtons, so they take a step and then they're on one leg with a Wellington boot stuck behind them and they're going, ah! So the weather can sometimes put a bit of a damper on things. Sometimes the number of people can be a bit daunting because it's so big that sometimes when you go down there you want to go meet somebody, it's hard to find, and you can't use your mobile phone because everybody's trying to use their mobile phone and it's in a very small area and you can't get coverage. So those kinds of things are not easy, but that's part of the experience. So when I say I don't enjoy them, it's not that you've got to have a variety of things. Some things are really good, but some things that you want to moan about later. So that would be a moany about later bit. There's not too many things I don't like. I'm fortunate where I live because I know in parts of the village the noise from the festival can be quite disturbing. It doesn't go on too late and it doesn't start too early, but nevertheless, for people who might be closer to the site itself, there can be a lot of noise coming to them, and that can be difficult for them to manage. But for us, we live just far enough away and there's a ridge between us and the site, so actually the sound coming towards us isn't too bad. You can't hear every word in the bedroom, so that's good. But I know that for some people they don't enjoy that. And I know that traffic can also be a difficulty around the site. However, again, I'm very lucky. It doesn't disturb me because of where I'm situated in the village, because where I live is just off the supply route, and they keep the supply route clear so they can get supplies to the site. So all the traffic goes in through the entrance at the other end of the village, and where I am, it's all lovely. So what do I not enjoy about it? Actually, it's really nice, and I do enjoy that. because it's sometimes actually easier for me to get to school and back when there is the festival on than when there isn't, which is a bit strange, isn't it? You'd think it'd be the other way about.
The festival benefits. Yeah.
Yes, you think I'd be fighting through the traffic, but actually no. Sometimes it can be a little bit irritating that I'm in a gated community because they put gates on the ends of the roads, and that can be a little bit irritating because if you get a very officious gate person, they will prevent you going down to your house, and that can be a little bit annoying when you live in your house. So if you
live there,
we have a pass to go in and out of the village, but it starts the weekend, and sometimes you're perhaps going out early in the morning on a Saturday, which I've had happen before now, and I haven't got my pass with me because I haven't realised the gate's going to be in place when I come back. And then when I come back, I can't get back to my house. And I did once have an encounter with somebody who got very cross about it. And I went to do a 3-point turn and go in at the other end of the village, and he thought I was going to ram the barricade and leapt across it to protect it, which was quite entertaining. I said, no, it's fine, I'm just turning round, I'm really not going to ram raid it.
Desperate to get in,
yeah. I was saying, but I live there. Oh, they all say that. But I really do. Yeah, but people say that all the time. You can't come in. I went to the other gate and said, can I come in? They said, yeah, go in. So it was fine. What aspects do I not enjoy about the festival? Let me think. Don't really think about it in those terms, actually, because I think about the things that I'm going to go and enjoy. The weather, I suppose, is the big thing that can sometimes affect it badly. And the toilets are never great.
They're called the long drops.
But they're all right. They've got better over the years. I mean, it was particularly disgusting when it rained so much that they all turned over. That wasn't good. I weren't quite sure what people were swimming in.
That just sounds horrendous.
What could be improved, I guess?
Well, it seems to be running very smoothly now. I would say that over the years, people at Glastonbury have taken on board criticisms that have been made locally and bigger than locally, if you will. And usually it runs very smoothly. Occasionally they are caught out by the weather still, because when it was very wet, they couldn't get the campers off the sides because they just got bogged down in the mud at the entrance gates. And I know there were people there who'd been woken up by the rain, their tents had collapsed on them, they were cold, and they had to, some people were sort of almost hypothermia, they had to have special blankets and be taken off to hospital. So the weather can still be a bit of an issue, but the Glastonbury can't actually improve that. They can't change the weather, can they?
No.
I suppose that seating, they could do better seating, because you do have to walk all the time, there's nowhere to sit down. Especially if it's wet. So they put down straw bales sometimes for you to sit on, but when it's very wet, it all gets spread out to mop up the surface so people can get about.
Mushes in, doesn't it?
Yeah,
together.
Mushes in.
Yeah.
So seating is perhaps one of the things that would be nice to be able to sit down sometimes. If you sit down at Glastonbury, you have to buy something. So some free seating would be good. That would be my single thing.
What do you think it is? No. Do you think it is value for money?
Well, I have a confession to make now here, girls. It's certainly value for money for me because I don't have to pay anything. I get my tickets free. Because
That is value for money.
Our house is on the electoral roll. We have 4 people in our family on the electoral roll in Bilton, so we get a ticket for each one of those 4 people.
Wow.
So from my point of view, it certainly is value for money because I don't have to pay anything. I don't even have to pay any food if I don't want to, because I can walk home or take my food with me. So it doesn't cost me anything at all unless I choose for it to cost me. So really, value for money is excellent from my point of view.
Oh, that's good. We all know Mrs. Lowe, don't we?
Tickets going straight, yeah.
Why do you think it attracts a worldwide audience?
I think partly because it has acts from, first of all, from so many different countries, but also across so many different genres. So people who are interested in country music can listen to that. If you want straight pop, you can listen to that. If you want to just dance, there's a dance hall. So there's a lot of variety on the site. And the other thing, of course, is that they do go out of their way to get very good acts, and that inevitably attracts a worldwide audience because there are followers of those acts across the world. and people want to see them performing, so they will want to follow the television coverage. I'm always surprised by how big it gets, because I believe that our little valley holds a town the size of Swindon for a fortnight.
It's huge.
For a fortnight, yeah, just over, well, it's just under a fortnight really. So, yeah. And people do come. They sell the tickets are sold worldwide, so people come from a distance to do it. And I know that the camping facilities have improved over time, and some people can bring, well, we even buy tents on site and stuff.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's the appeal of the good headline act and the fact that they're so well known, and it's been going for some time. It's got a track record, I think, is the other thing. But I think it's also perhaps that in the national psyche, festivals are all over the place in the UK these days, and America as well, and other, I'm sure other countries too. And so it's been a sort of 50 years of developing festivals across the UK. What was the first one? The Isle of Wight in about 1960 something, wasn't it? And then the last 50 years have been more and more growing. So it's been a bit of an in thing. I'm sure in due course it will pass and something else will take its place, but there we are.
What age do you think Glastonbury is aimed at?
Well, that's changed over the years, I think, and I think I'm not sure Mr. Evis is totally thrilled with the fact that it's changed, because it started out very much for teenagers, I think, and young adults, and over the years it's become more of a family-oriented entertainment, I think. Especially as they've now got circus tents and various other things which are more focused towards younger people. But I know 2 or 3 years ago there was a criticism levelled at Michael Evis that it was turning into a sort of a middle-aged event, and that wasn't the purpose of it. It was a purpose for younger people. So I guess that's probably why he went for Jay-Z.
I think it was getting a bit corporate, wasn't it? A bit sort of.
Yeah.
But
he wanted a bit. It started out quite an edgy performance, I think, and then it got a little bit less edgy.
Yeah, definitely.
But possibly now that his daughter's running it, it's moving away from that again and becoming a little more edgy. I think they had to do something about the image of it, because it did have quite a poor image at one time for alcohol abuse and drug abuse and that kind of thing, and there was so many people there that there's bound to be an element of people perhaps not behaving the way they should, but on the whole, I think they probably went a bit too safe.
I think you're right. Yeah, they went the other way. Definitely.
I was glued to the Rolling Stones also.
They're good, weren't they?
They were fantastic.
I couldn't get close enough to see them in detail, but I was on the hill.
Brilliant.
Very good.
What other festivals have you attended?
Rock festivals, pop festivals, none. That's an easy answer, isn't it?
Do you think the festival benefits local communities such as Draycott?
Yes, I do. I think provided there's somebody within the community who's prepared to get involved with it. So I don't think there's much of a ripple out effect from the people buying. I mean, probably at Shepton Mallet gets a little bit, because people do trek out to buy food when they don't want to just buy stuff that's available on site, because it's a bit more expensive there. So probably Shepton gets a little bit of a ripple effect. But I wouldn't think places like Draycott would pick up on trade in that way. But I think if you've got people who want to go in and run part of the event, or be marshals or whatever, then it does benefit them in sometimes financially, sometimes just culturally.
Sort of a knock on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure.
And this school has been sending a team for a long time.
It has, and it's benefited this school quite dramatically, because it raises quite a lot of money for the school every year, which enables us to do things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Would you take a party of school children to the festival?
Possibly if they were old enough. I wouldn't take children from this school, because I think they would be a little too young to really appreciate it. And you'd have to have quite, I mean, here's my health and safety hat going on, you'd have to have quite, the parameters would have to be they have to be tightly supervised, and children would need to know what they were and were not allowed to do. And you'd have to liaise quite a lot with parents, I think, wouldn't you, in order to make sure that they were comfortable with everything planned.
Logistically, it'd be quite difficult.
Yeah, logistically, it'd be very difficult. I don't think I'd want to, but I could see that some people might, and I could see that it would be an excellent experience for those who went, but you'd have to be, prepared. You'd have to have lots of contingency plans and health risk assessments and all the rest of it done and dusted to make sure that nothing went wrong. I don't know if people do they?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Probably.
Well, they could have an area dedicated to.
They could definitely.
Yeah. Do you want to
Does anyone?
Both doors? They do make contingency arrangements when things change. So when the World Cup was on, there were big fields set aside for people who wanted to watch it and big screens up.
They're not doing that this year, but
no. Well, I think it was when they thought there might be England in the semi-finals or something. So that was when that was on.
I think that's it. Did you want to thanks for that then, Kathy.
That's fine.
That's great.
I was just interested, I just looked up that in 1970, when it started, it was £1 to go in.
Was it really?
And you got free milk from Michael Lewis's herd of cows.
Wow. But now, of course...
This year it's £2.10.
Yeah.
With a £5 booking fee.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people
it's more expensive.
Probably can't make that.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. But then you look at what's been provided now as compared with what's been provided then. I mean, in those days there was no fence around the site. It caused a huge amount of difficulty to the local people because there was no fence around the site and people were pitching up and pitching their tents in the back garden and walking into your kitchen and helping themselves to your food and generally speaking it was very insecure. People didn't leave their homes and it was just there was not the facilities on site weren't great. They didn't have so many acts. It was very much a young it just didn't offer what it offers now. So I suppose they have quite a lot of expenses. They've got police to pay, and I guess they have to do that, and they've got to have welfare
security and everything. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
First aid and
a bit more middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys they take a backpack with the food. They wouldn't worry about facilities, would you?
Well, no, absolutely.
We met in the hall for all those years. We weren't worried about facilities.
No, but people these days want decent facilities, I'm afraid.
Oh, I did want to ask you, do you have a favourite musician who's been to the festival?
Seth Lakeman.
Right.
Seth Lakeman's he's a folk singer, and he comes from Devon, and he was he went about 5 years ago. I went to the Pretty Folk Festival, which isn't a festival in the sense that you were asking me about which other festivals I've been to. It's very small, as you probably know, and I thought the quality of the acts were fantastic. And two of the acts who tumbled out the back of the van 10 minutes before they were performing was Seth Lakeman and his brother, and they were absolutely outstanding. I thought, just outstanding. What a good quality festival! It's amazing. And then about 3 weeks later, I had Radio 4 on, and heard the song that he'd been playing at Pretty Folk Festival on Radio 4. It just won a Grammy, and that was due to the fact he'd just bunged 50 CDs in the post and sent them off and won a Grammy. And he was then at Glastonbury Festival the next year, so I always have a bit of a soft spot for him. So that's nice. And he's an excellent musician. Plays the violin and the guitar. Yeah. So many different instruments. He's at a stomp board, and my daughter comes with me to the festival, and when we went to see him last time, because we go each time because I feel I know him. I mean, I know I don't, but you know what I mean. It's like I saw him just. So we go along. So I've got to go and see Seth Lakeman play. So we go along and. Last time we'd got all these youngsters at the front, and me, and my daughter, who's tall, got a loud voice, and all the youngsters your age were going, because he's very good looking, this young man, going, "Oh, Seth, marry me." And my daughter was there going, "You've got to make way for my mother first." I was very embarrassed. But yeah, that would be one of the acts that I remember very clearly because of him being quite local.
Wonderful. I think that's all the questions. I think that's enough.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Thanks, Kathy.
That's all right. Pleasure.
A name of interview. Okay, so we've got Jude Cobden, the 10th of July, 2014. We're doing the interview. It's at Pilton Playing Fields. Ben Stevens is doing the interview, and this interview record number 12. Okay. So, what were your most memorable parts of the festival?
Ooh. A lot of them have been more based around when I was a child and in the kids' field and doing poi. And because there's always something new every festival, so it was like every year I was learning something new and then going back to school 3 hours away and telling everyone what I saw and about all like poi and stuff like that. Like no one knew about that, and she went to school. It was quite fun. But I think one of the more recent ones was when I was like 12, and me and my sister were in the kids' field again, and we were watching the Bodger and Badger show. Unfortunately, it's no longer there because I think it's just so old now. But we were watching it, and we just mouthed the words to everything he was saying because we'd seen it so many times. The Bodger and Badger show, so that was really funny.
Okay, so what aspects do you not enjoy about the festival?
I've never actually complained about the festival. I mean, I'm pretty sure my parents could probably tell you about stories about complaining about how I was covered in mud or rain when I was younger. But I think I haven't really found anything to complain about it except until this year, when I think it's just affected me more. Now is the traffic, and it's not like I was in traffic, it's just the annoying traffic. Like it normally takes about 10 minutes to get home, but when it's around the festival, before and after, it's like 20 minutes. So I think it's just traffic and around the village that I guess can be a little bit annoying, but that's why we get free tickets.
So it balances, I suppose. What do you think could be improved about the festival?
Don't know really. I mean, I guess it was I think it was just this year though, but when they were, because they were late setting up, that was clear, everyone knew that. There were just too many like tractors and lorries on the roads, and I mean obviously we understand that it's a farm and there's roads, but you know, there's festival people here, people that are drunk and, you know, high out of their mind. They're not going to be aware of vehicles travelling 10 miles per hour at them. So that I guess, less cars on the road.
Okay, so just a general traffic issue there, sort of too much?
Yeah, inside the festival.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really traffic, it's just a matter of, you know, constantly, like a car turns up when you're like lost with your friends or something, and you know it becomes a bit of a nuisance, and it doesn't.
Okay. Do you think the festival's value for money?
Oh yeah. I'm surprised if the festival even make a profit, and I think that really says something, because so many people get in for free that I think it doesn't even make a profit anymore these days. I mean, they spend so much money trying to improve, like they introduced Arcadia last year and they got it back this year with its own field. They're doing so many things, like bringing in Block 9 and like other tents and other fields. I'm surprised they even make a profit these days, because there's so much at the festival, and 5 days isn't enough to do all of it, and half of it doesn't even start till the third day. So I think, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot on offer, isn't there, for the amount? Yeah. Why do you think it attracts a worldwide audience?
Well, because it was one of the first festivals. I mean, it's been around since the 80s. I think was the first one. It was like 1809 or something. I don't know, or even sooner. But you know, I think it was just one of the first festivals. I mean, like Download and stuff in Reading, well, Reading not quite so recent, but you know, there are so many festivals these days, but it's all recent things that started like 5 or 6 years ago. But this one's just ongoing, and it started so soon. It's just if you kind of go every like 5 years or have something set, and it's nice to see how it changes over the years, which is probably another thing. And also I think I have to say the obvious, it's a music festival, so of course people come for the music. And I think they had an excellent lineup this year. It was my favourite one they've ever had.
Quite varied, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. What age group do you think the actual festival's aimed at? Do you believe it's younger people, or?
Well, it changes because the festival has changed in the way that it used to be more, well, for hippies. Like everyone would know the Stone Circle and festival as for hippies. Like I remember being younger and it was known as a hippie festival, but now it's just known as a festival where teenagers who are like, you know, maybe 18 or just finished like A-levels, and you know, I think it's roughly 18 to maybe 22. You know, I think the audience has certainly got younger, but only because people, I mean, it's getting aimed towards the more younger people. With Arcadia introduced, more, like there's more clubs, more bars than there used to be.
Yeah, so do you think it's changed for the better then, over the years you've been?
It depends, really. I mean, I think it's changed for the better in that I think it's getting more people, obviously, because it's changed. but I don't know, it's lost. You call it festival now instead of Glastonbury. Before you'd it have its own name because it was something different, but now it's just another festival. I mean, it's still amazing. I still love it. I still absolutely love it. But before, Glastonbury had more of a name for itself in the way that it was, you know, when it was smaller and it was more hippie people or for travellers. But now it's just somewhere for teenagers to gather together to get drunk and listen to music. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I see what you're saying.
I'm just saying.
You think it's lost a bit of its?
Yeah, it's just changed a bit.
Yeah. So, what other festivals have you been to?
None.
Just
I've only ever been to Glastonbury.
Is there any other festivals you'd like to go to?
Download Festival. They had a really good lineup this year, but that's already happened. But I definitely would like to go to Reading. That's just because that's another known festival, and they always have a good lineup. But main appeal is the music with festivals.
Do you think that the festival benefits local communities like Pilton?
Certainly. I mean, there are a lot of. Every year there's more and more posh camping sites dotted around the festival, and people like selling their like gardens and fields open for people to camp there instead of in the festival. Like there's even someone who, you know, rents out their house to people and that pays for their holidays. You know, it can pay a lot of money just for someone to camp in your garden and use your toilets. And another friend of mine let people rent her caravan during the duration of the festival. I mean, you can just do stuff like that, so I think it does benefit, but obviously it does have its cons about it, like I said earlier, with the traffic.
Do you think that the community is too reliant on the festival?
I don't know really. I mean, the people that do the posh camping, it's not their only job. They have other jobs. So I guess, I mean, when there wasn't one in 2012, not many people mentioned it really, to be honest. So I don't think so particularly.
What's your sort of favourite act then that you've seen at the festival?
This year or?
Yeah. Well, actually, in the last, you've been 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last, what would you be your top?
I don't know. Well, because mainly when I was younger and I didn't really have an iPod or wasn't really into the music that much, I'd just kind of go to wherever my parents were. Like, I mean, but I'll always remember Paul McCartney because obviously he wrote Hey Jude and that was the only way I knew him. And I remember when he sang that and everyone was singing it and I was on my dad's shoulders like, that's me!
You know that song?
Yeah! But I think Florence and the Machine, that was, I want to say 2010, but I don't think it was. But I went to see that with my friend and that was, I think Florence and the Machine was the first person that I ever saw. I wasn't there just because my parents were there. I was there because I actually liked the music and I think it got me into seeing live performances in general. Okay.
Well, thanks for that, Jude. Yeah, that's the lot, I think. That's great. Okay. Thank you.